In a quiet village cradled between mist-covered hills and ancient, whispering woods, there lived a man named Kofi. Known for his handsome face and silver tongue, Kofi was the object of admiration for many, but beneath his charming exterior, he harbored a restless spirit. Though married to a kind and loving woman named Ajoa, Kofi's heart was easily swayed by the allure of the unknown. His marriage, though stable, lacked the excitement he craved, and he often found himself wandering beyond the village, seeking something more. One fateful day, as Kofi meandered through the dense, shadowy woods, he encountered a woman unlike any he had ever seen. She stood at the edge of a clearing, bathed in the soft, golden light of the setting sun. Her beauty was otherworldly, her skin a deep, flawless ebony, her eyes glittering like stars, and her hair flowing down her back in thick, raven-black waves. She wore a simple white dress that clung to her slender frame, and when she moved, it was as if she glided rather than walked. "Who are you?" Kofi asked, unable to tear his eyes away. "I am Izai," she replied, her voice as smooth as silk and as enchanting as a lullaby. "I live in these woods. Would you walk with me?" Kofi, spellbound by her presence, eagerly agreed. They walked together through the forest, talking of things that seemed to melt away the troubles of the world. Izai spoke of distant lands and ancient secrets, her words weaving a web of intrigue around Kofi's heart. He felt as though he had known her for a lifetime, as if she were the missing piece of his soul. As dusk fell, she led him to her home, a small, beautifully crafted hut hidden deep within the woods, far from the eyes of villagers. The hut was unlike any place Kofi had ever seen. It was warm and inviting, filled with the scent of jasmine and the soft glow of lanterns that seemed to hover in the air. Time seemed to slow down, and Kofi felt a peace he had never known before. The night passed in a blur of laughter, stories, and stolen glances that soon turned into a passionate embrace. From that night on, Kofi could think of nothing but Izai. He returned to her hut every day, making excuses to Ajoa, abandoning his work, and distancing himself from the life he once knew. The village began to notice his absence, whispers spreading about his unexplained disappearances. But Kofi was oblivious to the concerns of others. Izai had become his world, and he hers, or so he believed. Weeks turned into months, and Kofi's visits became more frequent until he stopped returning to the village altogether. Ajoa, heartbroken and confused, sought him everywhere but found no trace of her husband. The villagers began to murmur of curses and dark spirits, but no one dared venture deep into the woods where Kofi was last seen. In Izai's hut, time seemed to lose all meaning. Days blended into nights, and Kofi reveled in the endless pleasures she offered. Yet, beneath the surface, subtle changes began to take place. The food that had once been rich and flavorful began to taste bland. The vibrant colors of the forest dulled, and the air that had once felt so refreshing grew heavy and cold. Kofi started to feel a strange unease, a growing sense that something was amiss. One evening, as he lay beside Izai, Kofi noticed her eyes, once warm and inviting, had taken on a cold, distant glint. "Stay with me forever, Kofi," she whispered, her voice carrying an edge of urgency. "There's nothing for you in that village. I can give you everything you've ever wanted." Without hesitation, Kofi agreed, thinking only of the life they could build together, free from the mundane concerns of his past. He did not return to the village the next day, nor the day after. He was lost to the world he had once known, fully immersed in the strange, intoxicating existence that Izai offered. But the more he gave himself to this new life, the more things began to unravel. As weeks passed, the hut that once seemed so warm and inviting began to change. The walls felt closer, the air colder, and the once fragrant flowers withered before his eyes. The animals that had once approached Izai with trust now fled in her presence. Kofi started to feel as though he were living in a dream that had turned into a nightmare, but he could not wake up. One morning, desperate for clarity, Kofi ventured out of the hut, seeking solace in the familiar paths of the forest. As he wandered, he stumbled upon a small, clear pond, its surface perfectly still. Kneeling down, he cupped his hands to drink, but when he saw his reflection in the water, a cold wave of horror washed over him. The man staring back was a shadow of his former self, gaunt, with pale, ashen skin and hollow, sunken eyes. His once youthful face was lined with age, his hair streaked with gray. It was as if years had passed in mere months. Panic gripped Kofi's heart. He ran back to the hut, desperate for answers. But when he arrived, the hut was gone, replaced by a swirling, dark mist that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. In the center of the mist stood Izai, but she was no longer the beautiful woman he had known. Her form had twisted into something monstrous. Her once flawless skin now cracked and shadowed, her eyes glowing with a cold, unnatural light. "Kofi," she whispered, her voice echoing with a sinister tone that made his blood run cold. "You wish to stay with me forever, and now you shall. But know this, you have crossed into the other world, and here you will remain, for you no longer belong to the world of the living." Kofi fell to his knees, begging for mercy, but Izai's expression remained unmoved. The ground beneath him began to tremble, cracking open to reveal a swirling abyss of darkness. Tendrils of shadow reached up, wrapping around his legs, pulling him down into the void. His screams echoed through the forest, but no one was there to hear them. As he was dragged deeper into the darkness, Kofi caught one last glimpse of Izai, her cold, cruel smile, the last thing he saw before he was pulled into the depths of the other world, a place of eternal night where lost souls wandered aimlessly, forever cut off from the warmth and light of the living world. Back in the village, Kofi's disappearance became a mystery that no one could solve. Ajoa mourned for her husband, but in time, she too moved on, though the pain of his abandonment lingered. The villagers spoke in hushed tones of Kofi's fate, but none dared to venture into the woods to discover the truth. In the deepest part of the forest, where the trees grew twisted and the air was thick with an unnatural chill, the spirits whispered of a man who had been taken by a spirit girl who lured him with her beauty and charm, only to drag him into the other world, where he would wander forever, a lost soul in a land of shadows. And on certain nights, when the wind howled through the trees and the moon was hidden behind clouds, the villagers claimed they could hear a strange, haunting melody echoing from the depths of the forest, a lament for a man who had strayed too far from the path and paid the ultimate price for his betrayal. Thanks for joining me on this eerie journey into the depths of the unknown. If you enjoyed this tale of suspense and dark twists, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more stories that will send chills down your spine. Don't forget to ring the bell so you'll be notified whenever a new story drops. And remember, sometimes the choices we make can lead us to places we never imagined, even to worlds beyond our own. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and keep exploring the shadows. Thanks for joining me on this eerie journey into the... If you enjoyed this tale of suspense and dark twists, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more stories that will send chills down your spine. Don't forget to ring the bell so you'll be notified whenever a new story drops. And remember, sometimes the choices we make can lead us to places we never imagined, even to worlds beyond our own. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and keep exploring.